Yeah, it's live now. Yeah. Very good evening to all the participants, dignitaries, the premier members, zonal directors, and board of directors of CIR, and all the principals. First, let us start with a small silent prayer for 10 seconds, please. Now I invite our moderator, Vijayam Karta ma'am, to start the program. Vijayam ma'am, please.
Yeah. Good evening to each and every one of you here. So I welcome you on behalf of CEIR. I welcome all of you to the first webinar under the NEP 2020 webinar series being organized by Center for Educational Initiatives and Research Trust Global. CEIR, for the people who are new to this forum, CEIR is a forum of versatile and experienced educators working in harmony to empower all stakeholders to raise the education sector in India to global standards. The 8 sessions of NEP 2020 webinar series are planned every Tuesdays and Saturdays in the month of February. Timing will be 4:30 to 6 p.m. For every webinar. The objective is to help schools to implement NEP guidelines in their classrooms. Some of the best minds in education field will be leading these sessions. Today, we are honored to have Sri Anurag Tripathi, IRPS Secretary, CBSE, as our chief guest this evening, and Dr. Swati Popat-Watts as the speaker of the day. We also have 2 panelists, both zonal directors of CIR, Mr. Mukesh Chailach, who is the principal of DPS Varanasi, and Mrs. Jayashree Venkatraman, principal cum academic director, SNBP World School, Pune. Another zonal director, Dr. C.B. Mishra, director principal, Prudence School, Ashok Vihar, Delhi, will be proposing the vote of thanks and giving the concluding remarks. We are also privileged to have all the board of trustees, zonal directors, and the premium members of CEIR joining us this evening. We have around 750 or so members on Zoom, and we are also streaming online on Facebook. I welcome each and every one of you to this first webinar of this webinar series. Srisan, is sir there? Anurag sir has come.
Okay.
Has Anurag sir
you can
come?
go ahead, ma'am. We will. It's not
Okay.
there.
So
meanwhile, ma'am, Vijayam ma'am, let me just
maybe.
Let me introduce Vijayam Karta ma'am, because I feel that I must introduce Vijayam Karta ma'am also. She's the former principal of Kerala Samajam Model School, Jamshedpur, and founder of Kerala Public Schools. And she's a great educator. She has won many accolades in the field of education. So over to you, ma'am.
Oh, thank you so much, Bindu. So as we are waiting for Anurag sir to come, even though Anurag sir doesn't need any formal introduction, I would like to share his brief profile. Anurag sir is the 1998 batch officer of Indian Railway Personnel Service, or IRPS as it's called. As the secretary of CBSE, he has endeared himself to all stakeholders with his easy approachability and compassionate nature. As and when sir comes, we will listen to him. So without wasting time, I would like to introduce Dr. Swati Popat-Watts, the speaker for the day today. I would like to term her as the first lady of early childhood education in India. She is synonymous with early childhood education. We are so much honored to have her as the first speaker of this webinar series. Ma'am, we are absolutely indebted and grateful to you for your presence. She's a very busy person. In spite of that, she readily accepted our invitation to be here. Dr. Swati is the founder, president of Early Childhood Association of India, president of Association of Primary Education and Research, president of Podar Education Network, founder director Podar Jumbo Kids, national representative of World Forum Foundation, and nursery director for Little Wonders UAE. An educator with over 34 years of experience, Swati ma'am is a change maker and an educational activist. A teacher and a great administrator, she has worked hard to weave innovative methods of teaching learning while obliterating stress in the pre-primary education system. I think, you know, owe so much to her for this great compassionate act. She has been assiduous in making sweeping changes in pre-primary education in India by bringing all pre-primary schools under the early childhood education. I think we are privileged to have Swati ma'am to talk on early childhood education. As you listen to the speaker, I request the participants to mute your audios and keep your videos on. I would also request you, if you have got any questions, please put it on the chat box. If any one of you have, I am sure most of the schools will have hundreds of best practices for early childhood education. If you would like to share it with us, we will be happy to compile it, and giving due credit to you, we will be sharing it with all. So please feel free to share your best practices later through an email. The email has been already indicated to you. So over to Swati ma'am.
Vijay ma'am, one small request in between, and now we are touching 900 in Zoom. So we are, my humble request to all the co-hosts not to admit anyone until we get Anurag sir, so others can watch on Facebook. So please don't admit any more participants. A humble request. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. So
Anurag sir is joining after 15 minutes. So please.
Okay, no problem. We can start, ma'am. You go ahead. Okay, great.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sir. So Swati ma'am, please, the stage is over to you. Maybe whenever Anurag sir comes, we will, sort of request you to give some time for sir to share his thoughts. Over to you, ma'am.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I am here because of Vijaya ma'am and because of her invitation. And I have great respect for this organization because they started this entire program with early years. And any organization that acknowledges the importance of the early years is definitely an organization worth respecting. And you can understand the kind of work that they are doing. So to all the participants here, namaskar. And pleasure and honor to be here talking about foundational literacy and numeracy. Can I have the PowerPoint up now? Because I would like to take the participants through the PowerPoint. Very important for us to understand that the National Education Policy talks about foundational literacy and numeracy, which for us, we need to understand why was the term foundational literacy used? I mean, they could have just used literacy and numeracy. So it is very, very important for early childhood educators to understand why was the term foundational literacy and numeracy used. So it is very important that today's workshop is going to help you understand not only the NEP and its vision for foundational literacy and numeracy. Is the PowerPoint up? Because I'm not able to see it.
Yeah, yes, up, ma'am. This is the third slide. Are you not able to see this?
No, 1 minute. I'll just go into other.
It is visible.
One. Yeah, now it's visible. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So can you go to the first slide after my name?
Yes. Ma'am,
Yeah,
you can just say next. I will keep on moving, ma'am.
I will do that. I will say next
Yeah.
slide. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this slide. What I'm going to show you is a lot of people are not sure whether early years education matters, whether early years education is important. So here are some slides from the Reggio Emilia method, which is there in Italy. And it is a slide of an 18-month-old baby. As you can see that the 18-month-old baby is going through a magazine because the baby didn't want to play with any toys. So there is a teacher on the left-hand side. She is a trained early childhood educator. And let us see how through these photographs we can understand that brain development truly happens in the early years. Let's go to the next slide. The child saw a photograph of a watch and paused. And I want you to see the expressions on the child's face in every photograph, because Reggio Emilia has a wonderful poem called The 100 Languages of Children. That children talk to you through 100 languages. Some of that can be facial language, it can be expressions, etc. Let's go to the next slide. The child pauses, points to the watch, and looks inquiringly at the adult. Now, this is a very important learning and teaching moment, because this happens often in our classrooms, but we ignore it. So a right educator at this point would be able to ensure that the child is learning through the brain, and an incorrect educator at this point would turn everything into rote learning. Let's see what this educator did. Let's go to the next photograph. So this educator, she showed the watch to the child and allowed the child to touch the watch. Again, look at the expression on the child's face. Let's go to the next slide. In the next slide, the educator allowed the child to hear the sound of the voice of the watch. Now, please understand, the next photograph becomes very important. Let's see what happens in the next photograph. And here you can see that the child made a connection. The child made a connection between the picture in the magazine, that this is a watch. What the teacher showed me is a watch. If this watch, which is real, has a sound, then the watch in the picture must also be having a sound. So that is a connection that this child's brain was able to make, because the child's teacher was able to help the child reach this connection. It's very, very important. I told you, remember that at one photograph, that moment becomes very important for a teacher. If at that moment she had said, yes, beta, this is a watch, watch starts with W, W for watch, were, all this would have ended up making the child feel bored, because you are trying to then make the child learn by rote learning. These photographs are evidence that even an 18-month baby, if taught or stimulated correctly, can make connections in what you are talking about, what you are showing them, and thinking is possible and is happening in young babies and toddlers. Let's go to the next slide. Very importantly, it's brain development, or when we say the NEP has accepted or made it official now that 85% of a child's cumulative brain development occurs prior to the age of 6. And this is a landmark statement in the NEP. You don't have to now convince parents about the importance of early childhood education. The NEP has stated it right there, that 85% of the brain develops in the first 5 years. Let's go to the next slide. And you will see that when a child is born, there are neurons in the brain, trillions of neurons. Those little dots that you see on the newborn child's brain are called neurons. And it is up to us, the parents and teachers, to make connections between these neurons. And the child's intelligence, the child's emotional intelligence, it all depends on these connections that we are able to make in the early years. And you can see how fast the growth of these connections is. By the 3rd year, by 1,000 days, the brain is almost very, very densely connected with all the neurons. So when children come to us at 3 years, up to the age of 6 years, we have 3 years with us for us to enhance that brain connection. Let's go to the next slide. What did Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation, say about early childhood education? A lot of people know that Mahatma Gandhi wrote Nai Talim, and not many people know that 6 months after writing Nai Talim, Mahatma Gandhi wrote Pre-Basic Education. And this is what he said in Pre-Basic Education. He said that we labor under a sort of superstition that the child has nothing to learn during the first 5 years of its life. On the contrary, the fact is the child never learns in afterlife what it does in the first 5 years. This is what Mahatma Gandhi said about early childhood education. Maria Montessori, we are all aware about. Most of our schools practice the Montessori method. And she also said that the most important period of life is not the age of university studies, but the period from birth to the age of 6. And it is very, very important that now our NEP has also stated this fact, and we talk about foundational literacy and numeracy. Let's go to the next slide. If you see in the National Education Policy, it recommends that ECCE, which is early childhood care and education, ideally consists of flexible, multifaceted, multi-level, play-based, activity-based, and inquiry-based learning. So this is a very important 3 paragraphs that you must keep with you as an early childhood educator to understand what kind of a curriculum you should be having for children in the early years. Now, when we talk about play, a lot of parents are a little hesitant that, oh, you're only going to play with children. Many educators also feel play, why should we only play with children? Play means there will be no learning. Let's go to the next slide. The next slide tells you that what is this play-based learning that the NEP stresses on? Does it mean no learning? Let's understand in the next slide. This slide is again very important. I urge all teachers and educators to keep it with you when you are talking to parents, that if we teach through play, do we teach less? Because many people feel that if it's play-based, that means learning won't be there only. There will be only ABCD and 1, 2, 3 is learning. That's not the case. If you see the last paragraph here, it says, because a program uses playful ways to build children's success, does not mean that the curriculum is not rigorous or academic. It just means that it is just right for what's best for a 3, 4, 5-year-old child. It's very, very important to understand this. Let's go to the next slide. Let's understand that why play in the early years? Why is the whole world talking about play in the early years? And there is a very, very effective explanation for this. Did you know that the right side of your brain develops first? Yes, it's the right brain that develops first, and the right brain develops during the ages when the child is 3 to 4 years old. So when Mahatma Gandhi or Montessori is talking about the importance of the first 6 years, that's because the right brain is developing during that age. So why play? Let's go to the next slide. The brain is divided into 2 sections, right and left brain. And this is not something that is a myth. It is proven by Dr. Roger Sperry. He received a Nobel Prize for his split brain research. And what he says, if you understand in the next slide, it says that the right brain is responsible for long-term memory storage. So which means anything that you're doing in your classrooms, you want children to remember, right? So if you want children to remember it, if you want children to retain it, if you want children to relate to it, that knowledge that you are trying to give to children has to go into the right brain. And the right brain learns by playing, by singing, by drama, and by physical activity. So when you are using left brain techniques like writing 10 times, writing 15 times, reciting something, many children are not able to remember it. They keep forgetting it and they come to school and you say, I taught you this yesterday. Again, you have forgotten. But you used a left brain technique, and that's why the knowledge did not go into the right brain. Instead of that, if you were to use right brain techniques, then not only will it become more interesting, it will go straight to the right brain, which is your long-term memory bank. So if parents and educators are able to understand this basic thing, they would now understand why is the NEP stressing on play-based learning. Let's go to the next slide. Our school curriculum is generally more left brain oriented. You know, if you see preschools around the country, they stress more on auditory, they stress between teacher is talking, children are supposed to listen. We tell them keep quiet when I'm talking, listen to me. We talk about writing. We feel very proud if children can write numbers up to 500, but we are not worried that children can't count. If you ask a child who can recite numbers till 500, if you tell the child count 62 objects and give me, the child will not be able to do, but this child can count up to 500. What use is that counting? Which means your foundations of numbers is weak. You can count up to 500, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can do all that, but you are not able to actually make one-to-one association and count that many number of objects. And that, my friends, means that the foundation is missing. And that is something that has been addressed in this national education policy. When we talk about foundational literacy and foundational numeracy, we are supposed to give these children the foundation that is so strong that they will not be forgetting it again and again. They will be able to understand it, they will be able to retain it, and they will be able to relate and use it again and again. Let's go to the next slide. It is our duty in the early years to ensure that the left brain and the right brain communicate, because many of the subjects that we will be exposed to in primary and secondary school, like English, like geography, like mathematics, require both sides of the brain. Now, that is why we sing in early years classrooms. Have you noticed? You have early years teachers who are constantly singing to children. Why is that important? Singing is important because music or rhythm is processed in one side of the brain and words of the song are processed in another side of the brain. So when you sing to children, both sides of their brain have to communicate, both sides of their brain have to relate for them to understand that song and for them to sing. That's why we have marching activities in preschool. Have you noticed? We love to make children march. Children love to march. Children love to climb. All these are cross-lateral activities. Cross-lateral means the left brain communicates with the right brain. See, when you are marching, it's your right hand is out and your left foot is out. So it's both the opposite which are out, which means that's cross-lateral communication. So it is very important for early childhood educators to understand whatever you're doing in the classroom is not just for fun and games. If you are doing play-based education, it is feeding the growing brain of your child, of all the children in your classroom. And you can never go wrong with play-based education. Let's go to the next slide. Maria Montessori said that you need three things in the process of learning: the brain, the senses, and the muscles. So any activity that involves these three is a good activity for children. So if you're going to make children write only, then it's not, because you're not using all the senses, you are not using the brain, and you're not using the muscles. So it is very, very important that when you are making a connection, when you are planning your curriculum, ask yourself, am I using all three in this activity which I have planned? It doesn't mean do away with all writing, not at all. It means that when you are teaching writing for the first time, ensure that it is done through a play-way, activity-based method, because then children will be interested and then the brain will be active and engaged. Let's go to the next slide. Let's go to understand that foundational literacy has two parts. Foundational literacy has reading and foundational literacy has writing. Now, reading is quite a challenge because our human brain is not geared for reading. Because unlike the spoken language, it does not come from observation and imitation. You know, when we learn a language, we observe people who talk that language and we imitate them. Reading cannot happen with observation and imitation. Also, There are specific regions in the brain which are devoted for speech and oral communication. But there is no one location in the brain for reading. There are multiple locations in the brain. And it is when all these locations communicate and get engaged, then reading happens in the human brain. So it is very, very important for teachers to understand that when children struggle with reading, it's not that they are having a learning difficulty. That shouldn't be the first solution that you should find. It is very, very important to understand that children struggle with reading because reading was not done as a hands-on activity that involved the particular parts of the brain. It requires multiple areas of the brain to work together. And it's very important to understand that when you read something, you are looking at print. Then you have to understand what that print means. And then you have to visualize what that print means. So you can understand how this process is difficult for children if you teach it only through a formal method. Let's go to the next slide. The best way to teach reading is to teach it through the MVAL method. What is this MVAL method? Very simply, I've given it on the slide here. M stands for motor control. V stands for visual discrimination. A stands for audio discrimination. And L stands for language. Let's see in the next slide, what are the activities? You all know about motor control. Motor control means fine motor development, large motor development, all the play activities. So when you are block playing, when you are painting, when you use craft, when you use scissors, that's motor control. And did you know that motor control is required in reading when you have to move your eyes from the left to the right, when you have to stop in the middle of a sentence on the blackboard and then go onto your book and copy it? All this requires not only visual control, it requires motor control also. So when you have these activities in the early childhood classroom, you are developing motor control, which is a foundation for literacy. Visual discrimination, making children play games of odd and even, find the odd one out. What is different? What is missing? You know, when we were children, our mothers used to have these games in our birthday parties. Nowadays, of course, birthday parties have become all about, you know, dancing to these raunchy numbers, etc. But it's very, very important to bring back those games in the classroom where visual discrimination is exercised through a playway method. Audio discrimination. Audio discrimination comes through rhymes, comes through singing, music. It comes through guessing sounds. You know, you can record sounds that a child can hear in the environment and play them for the child and tell the child, can you guess which bird is this? Or can you guess which animal is this? Then record the everyday sounds like water dripping or a clock's tick-tock and see if children can recognize those sounds. Because more audio discrimination, the better it will be for reading development. So it is very, very important to understand that if you want language to develop, language requires motor control, visual discrimination, and audio discrimination. So please plan these activities in your curriculum because this is what is going to help you in foundational literacy. Let's go to the next slide. Do I see the chief guest there?
I don't think so.
No, we are waiting, ma'am. We will give you that indication. We are watching it.
Okay.
Please go ahead, ma'am. No problem.
Okay. So it's very important that please understand that when we talk about foundational literacy in most of our schools, we are talking about a second language, which is English. We try to teach English to children, which is not their first language. Their first language is their mother tongue or their family language. And English can be quite difficult for a lot of children because of some very, very puzzling and complex rules that it has. But if you Google search, you will come across a lot of rhymes that make these complex things very easy for children. For example, we teach children in the early years phonics, and we teach them that vowels have two sounds and consonants have only a single sound. But then they come across the letter G, which is a consonant, but it makes two different sounds. So why does it do that? So there, to explain this to young children, you can use a song like this. This is a very lovely song. It says, sometimes the G says ja 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 ja. Sometimes the G says ja ja ja. I will tell you why. If after the G you see an I or a E or a Y, they all make the G say ja ja ja. You give it a try. G is soft and Jim and gel, Jim and gel, Jim and gel. So this is how a song would teach them that why does the G say giraffe and why does the G say gel? So it's very important to help children understand that if after the G they see an I or a E or a Y, then these friends of the letter G tell the G to change its sound. So G says go, that's a G, but G says gym, that's a J. Why? So look what's coming after the G. And if it is an I or a or a E or a Y, then it will make the G change its sound. So it's very, very important that when you teach it in these kind of fun manner, children understand it and it does not become rote learning. Let's go to the next slide. Maria Montessori has a very wonderful, interesting method of teaching reading. She says that reading is like a parts of the house. So you have the roof right at the bottom, and you have the basement right at the top. So which means you start with the basement, right? You have the base of the house first, and then you go to the roof. So what is in the basement? She says in the basement is the joy of being read to. Please read stories. Please don't only tell stories. See, storytelling is very different from story reading. So as early childhood educators also engage in story reading. When you read stories out to children, then you are not focusing that much on your facial expressions. You're focusing more on the words used by the author of that book or that storybook. So joy of being read to, a language-rich environment. Label everything in your environment so that children see more of the written word. The ground floor is the awareness of the sounds of the language. So whichever language you're trying to teach to the children, there should be awareness of those sounds. Your pronunciation should be clear. You must have more rhymes and songs of that language so that the child is aware of the sounds of the language. The upper floor is the ability to attach symbols to sounds, which means now I know that G says G or B says B. So when I hear B, I know it's B. So I'm able to attach a symbol to the sound. Because what is reading? Reading is all about attaching symbols to sounds. So that basic foundation of attaching a symbol to the sound is very important, and it is part of the upper floor. Then she says attic. Attic is where you use those symbols to express. So let children learn to express themselves. Please don't teach a language by rote learning. And please don't try to make the child speak that language during an emotional moment. Like, for example, let me tell you what happened one day when I was sitting in a teacher's class. The teacher was very, very clear that in my class, everybody must speak in English. And a child came up to her and said, "Teacher, susu." So the teacher said, "No, we must talk in English. You must say, I want to go to the washroom." So the child said, "Teacher, susu." So the teacher said, "No, sweetheart, you are going to say, I want to go to the washroom." So the child said again, "Teacher, susu." So the teacher said, "No, please repeat after me. Please say, I want to go to the washroom." So the child said, "Teacher, ho gaya." So that's an emotional moment for the child. The child had a body physical need, and you kept on stressing on English. A child is not going to pay attention to this new language when the child is trying to express a bodily need or a requirement which is very, very emotional. Also, don't make it a kind of a sin or a punishment if the child talks in another language. It happens in many schools. We punish children for not talking in English. By doing that, we are making them think that the other language is bad and only English can be good. So we need to understand that when we are talking about foundational literacy and when we are talking about reading, listening and speaking are the first steps to reading. So it is very, very important that don't have anything like this which can put off children from a language. Let's go to the next slide. The NEP says that you must teach in the mother tongue as much as possible. And this is going to be quite a challenge for a lot of schools because we are a country of many cultures. And now with parents having transferable jobs, you will see that in your classroom, you may have a child who speaks in Kannada or a child who speaks in Telugu, Kannada, Hindi, and Bengali. Now, how and whose mother tongue will you talk in? So it is also very important because I saw a lot of teachers very nervous about this new thing in the NEP. And I asked them only one thing. I said, why are you afraid of this? Ma'am, because I don't know the languages of all these children. I said, have you ever thought about it? These 3-year-olds come to a preschool. They don't know any other language than their own mother tongue. But at the end of 1 month, they are all playing with each other. How did they manage to do that? How did they manage to learn each other's mother tongue? No, they didn't. They understood that communication is not just about a language. And that's why you will see 3-year-olds are playing with a Kannada child is playing with a Bengali child, a Marathi child is playing with a Gujarati child, and they both don't know each other's language. So it is very, very important for teachers to keep an open mind about mother tongues. And if you feel that you are struggling, you can make a chart like this. This is what we have made in our schools. So on the left-hand side is what you want to speak in English, or and then Marathi, Gujarati translation, Hindi, Punjabi translation, that if the child wants to say something like this, what would it sound like in Hindi, etc. So this will help you reach out to the child by understanding what the child is trying to say to you. So we will have to think of all these things when we say that we want to follow the NEP, but we don't know how. Well, we should know how, and this is one of the ways in which you can follow what the NEP says about the mother tongue. Let's go to the next slide. Writing. When we talk about foundational literacy, very important to understand that writing is a part of it. And for some children, writing has become like this. Writing has become like a jail. Writing has become something that they hate. Now, when we talk about foundational literacy, you have to talk about foundational writing. Let's go to the next slide. Again, I'm going to quote Mahatma Gandhi, because Mahatma Gandhi said that good handwriting is a necessary part of education. I am now of the opinion that children must first be taught the art of drawing before learning how to write. Because what is a letter? Let's say a letter is nothing but a figure. It's just a drawing of a few lines and the way it is put together. So if you introduce writing in the form of drawing to children, children's right brain would be engaged and they would be more interested in the writing activities rather than you introducing writing with a square line book and ask them to write in those boxes properly. That's left brain. And that's why you keep on doing it again and again. You are making the child write 30 times and the child is still not able to write because you used a left brain technique. Mahatma Gandhi said, children should be taught to read before they learn to write. Because what's the point of me writing something if I don't know what I have written? And another word which I loved in this quotation was that it should help child to draw and not scroll the alphabet. Because otherwise, we complain about bad handwriting. But if I'm not interested in writing, I don't know what I'm writing, of course my handwriting is going to be bad. So you're going to solve so many problems just by ensuring that you follow what is given in the NEP for foundational literacy, which is play-based and activity-based. Let's go to the next slide. These are some of the activities that you must have in your early childhood classroom because they all contribute to writing. And I know a lot of teachers struggle with this because parents question them. Why are you making my child play with all this? Thoda writing karao, do more writing. But all this is contributing to writing. So when you do balancing activities with children, please understand children to sit and write need whole body balance. So if you don't do ball balancing activities in early years classrooms, children won't be able to sit for longer hours in the primary and secondary class, sit and write. So balancing activities. Parachute play. Please have a parachute. Parachute is nothing but a round piece of big cloth which children hold, and they have different holds. They have a thumbs down hold, they have a thumbs up hold, and children use their arms and their hands to make all the movements. And parachute play helps develop the muscles right from the shoulder to the wrist, because these are the muscles that are involved in writing. If you don't exercise all these muscles, then children will complain of hand paining while writing. Let's go to the next slide. Scissoring. A lot of schools don't like to give scissors to very young children because they say, oh, they will hurt themselves, oh, they will cut themselves. Scissoring is the foundation of writing, because the same 3 fingers that you use to hold a pencil are used to hold a scissor. So it is very, very important that many children are not able to hold a pencil because they don't know what to do with these fingers. They have to be turned in, and then they don't know how to keep them like that. So please give a lot of scissoring activities before you give a pencil in a child's hand. Nature activities. Giving children a picture of a leaf and asking them to go and find a similar leaf. How is this related to writing, you will say? Well, if you want me to identify that this is a B and this is a D, I need to be able to understand what's the difference. So when you make me play these kind of visual activities where I have to find something that is of the same shape, you are actually helping me identify letters, which is the foundation of writing. Let's go to the next slide. Throwing a ball and catching a ball. Most important that if you don't have this coordination for eye-hand coordination, you won't be able to write. That's why a lot of children are not able to copy from the blackboard, because whatever they saw on the blackboard, by the time they reach the book, they've forgotten where they stopped in the book. Then when they go up there, they've forgotten where they had stopped on the blackboard, because the eye-hand coordination is lacking. So when you play catching ball games, your eye-hand coordination is enhanced, which is extremely good for writing. Origami and paper folding. It not only strengthens your fine muscles, it helps you listen, because origami is all about the next step. So when you give origami instructions to children, children will be able to listen, focus, and understand. So when you are dictating to children, children will be able to write better. So all these activities look play. All these are activities. Why are they part of foundational literacy? Because the brain in the early years develops on the right side, and the right brain is where your long-term memory happens, and your right brain learns best through play and activities. Let's go to the next slide. What does Maria Montessori say about writing? So in the next slide, you will see that there are 2 exercises in the Montessori method which are related to writing: how to hold the implement and how to form the letter. So which means all 26 letters means how to form the alphabet. All the activities in the Maria Montessori method are about motor preparation. So whether you see the tracing or picking up the knobs, all these are part of motor preparation. And the last paragraph here is very important, that immense strain which we impose upon the children when we set them to write directly without a previous motor education of the hand. This is what Maria Montessori believed in, that please develop my motor skills before you give a writing implement in my hand. And that is very important. That is foundational literacy. Let's go to the next slide. So writing develops in a systematic manner, and children learn reading and writing simultaneously. And that is why it is important that you make children write in print first. Don't start joint handwriting or cursive handwriting first. First, let children write in print, because at the same time they are learning to write, they are also learning to read. And maximum books out there in the world are all in print. So we have to be very careful that you are not starting with capital letters first. Let's go to the next slide. So this slide says the same thing, that capital letters should not be taught first. First, you should start with the small letters, because reading also happens in small letters. And when you teach capital letters first, the child learns to write the name in all capitals. And that's not the way a name is written. So then later on, you will tell the child, no, only first letter capital. So it is very, very important that you teach the small letters first and then you teach the capital letters. Let's go to the next slide. Here, also, there is a scientific reason why more global schools are writing the small letters first, not only because it is related to reading, but motor education wise, there are more pencil pickups in the uppercase letters and fewer in the lowercase letters. So I will be able to write the letters in a smooth flow, the small letters. Capital letters, when I write, I'm constantly having to pick up my pencil and put it again, pick it up, put it up again, which is a little difficult for this age group. Let's go to the next slide. Lots of articles, lots of research on this, that you should do away with cursive handwriting. So in my previous slide, I have shown an article on cursive handwriting. Marian Richardson font is one of the best fonts for early years. So please use the Marian Richardson font. Again, I'm controversy's child because I believe in listening to research. I like to do away with traditional practices if they are wrong for children. And I have noticed that children struggle to move to the single line format if they have been taught in the 4-line format. It's primary children who struggle the most with this transition. But now globally, schools have shifted from the red and blue line to the 3-line concept. Now the 3-line is nothing but a single line with a dotted line in the middle. So the children learn that all small letters are written below the dotted line, all capital letters are written above the dotted line, and the hanging letters go below to the next dotted line. And as children grow older, the dotted line is removed, nothing else changes. So the transition to the single line format becomes easier and much more interesting in a phased manner. Let's go to the next slide. Let's go to foundational numeracy. Again, right brain, if you have to remember that children learn more through the right brain, then maths also, numbers, numeracy also should be introduced through these areas, block area, dramatic area, cooking area. When children see numbers in play, when children see numbers in their everyday life, then they will fall in love with numbers and numbers won't become a headache for them. Let's go to the next slide. Similarly, as I spoke about the activities that teach children to write well, there are activities that teach children to learn about numbers well. For example, teach maths through reasoning. When you give puzzles to children, when you give these puzzles or jigsaws, it helps children reason. Why does this piece not fit here? Say they understand about size, they understand about shape, and they are reasoning. Teaching numbers through guessing and estimation. In your sand play or in your water play, you can play estimation games. That do you think what I have in this bottle will be filled in this glass or will it overflow? How many pebbles do you think are there in this box? So you are playing a game of guessing, because when you play a guessing game, you look at quantity and you look at the shape of that quantity. And then you make an assumption based on reasoning. So maths is not just about numbers. Maths is about reasoning. And good mathematicians have the reasoning skill. So teach numbers not by starting number work first, but by teaching skills that are required for numbers, which is reasoning, shapes, size, guessing, estimation, etc. Let's go to the next slide. Problem solving, clues are all very important maths activities. Another thing which we do often in our schools which children enjoy and which is a foundation for geometry, because geometry is nothing but the understanding of shapes. We take them to the outdoors, we make them sleep on the grass and we tell them to look up at the clouds. Of course, you have to do this on a cloudy day because otherwise without clouds, this activity can't be done. We ask them to look at the shapes of the clouds, remember those shapes, and then create those shapes with blocks. So now think about it. They are seeing something, they are holding it in their memory, and then they are trying to create it in an object which is not a cloud. So it is very, very important to understand that they get an idea about the shape. Was it big? Was it round? Was it narrow? Was it large? So they are trying to make all this with their shapes. You can even do this with a drawing activity if you don't want to do it with blocks. Let's go to the next. Montessori material is very important in the learning of numeracy skills, especially when you use these equipment. The children learn about depth, children learn about size, children learn about shapes, and this is 3D, which means it's hands-on. Please understand a teaching maxim that says from concrete to abstract. Now, please understand maths is actually a very abstract concept. The ultimate algebra that children will do is very abstract. But if you teach children through foundation of 3D concrete items, children become much more better in the abstract of math. And that's why Maria Montessori has these geometrical shapes, which are very important. I am a proponent of hands-on coding activities for children. And I always feel that when you teach children a square, you are actually cheating a child, because a square is a flat shape. And before I understand a flat shape, you should be teaching me the three-dimensional shape. So if you read upon Froebel, Frederick Froebel, who is the father of kindergarten, you know, we use KG in India, and many of us don't know what KG stands for. KG is kindergarten. And Frederick Froebel was the one who invented kindergarten, who started the first kindergarten. And he would start with three-dimensional shapes. And he said that the three most important shapes to teach children are the cube, the cylinder, and the sphere, because all shapes are ultimately made of a combination of these. So it is very, very important that we should start with three-dimensional shapes, then go into flat shapes. Let's go to the next slide. When parachute play also helps you in math language, it's very important that children learn language of math, like on, off, before, after, up, down. All these are terms that they will be using in algebraic equations. So it is very, very important that children have a strong foundation in understanding these. Let's go to the next slide. And these are all the activities that you must do as part of your numeracy program, which is patterning, sorting, classifying, ordering and seriating, beginning number concepts, problem solving, measuring, estimating, and visual spatial awareness. Let's go to the next slide. Do games in the classroom which will teach children about foundation graphs. Like, for example, if you see on the left, at the end of every day, we ask children to put their vote in which activity they like the best in the day. So at the bottom, you will see the names of the activities, and then each child takes their name and votes for that activity. So by doing this, you teach them the foundation of graphs, because then you're counting which activity got the most number of votes, which activity got the least number of votes. Similarly, we made them make a graph with their shoes, put all the Velcro shoes, put all the laces shoes, put all the green color shoes. So these are everyday activities which will make them more interested in math. Let's go to the next slide. Venn diagrams is another very important activity that you should be using it. You may not say Venn diagram. You may not say, oh, this is the definition of a Venn diagram. But the activity per se is very good for young children. For example, you teach children about vehicles, and you say these are vehicles that we use for short distance travel. These are vehicles that we use for long distance travel. Now, there are some vehicles which you can use for both short and long distance. So when you make them make categories like this, and they find subcategories in the categories, all this is going to help them in their future geometry, algebra, etc. So it's very, very important that when we talk about foundational numeracy, This is the foundation that we are talking about. Next slide, please. Make them play games. If I was with you right now in a physical conference, I would be making you play this game right now. I would ask you to make 4 elbows. So which means you already have 2 elbows. Now you have to go and join them with somebody else who has 2 elbows. So like that, if I were to ask you to make 7 elbows, so which means you will be joining 3 people, but 1 person will have to put 1 elbow down. So it is, it's very, very important to understand when children learn counting like that, when they play these funny games with maths or with numbers, they'll start to make numbers and mathematics interesting for young children. The right brain gets involved, and then that maths concept remains with them for life. Let's go to the next slide. Art. Art is something that we use often in teaching children. Let me show you the next slide. This is what is commonly done in most schools. If you see, we give them a square line book and we ask them to write numbers. And on the left-hand side page, we ask them to draw that many number of objects. Now, I'll tell you why art is important. If you see on the right-hand side, that is actually a left brain activity because you've used writing. But if you see on the left-hand side, that is actually a right brain activity, which is drawing. And now if you will see, I will show you 2 books and you will see that each child writes the same, but each child is creative in a different manner. And that is required even in boring writing activities. You see the first child, he's drawn 1 elephant and then he's drawn 3 baby elephants. See the next child, the child has born for the same number 4, the child has drawn 4 tanks and each of the tanks has a different flag. See the pattern on the flag. So it shows you that you must include creativity even in the teaching of numbers, because otherwise number learning becomes very linear, very left brain, and the right brain doesn't get a chance to get involved. So please understand this concept. Let's quickly go to the next one. Just like we have a left brain and a right brain, we have a lower brain and we have a higher brain. Now I'm going to show you something. I want you to make a fist. I want you to put your thumb inside, that's your lower brain, and then cover it with your fingers, that's your higher brain. So every time a brain is upset, which means your lower brain is in charge of primitive emotions. And the only thing it is capable of is fight or flight. So if I'm upset, my brain is flipped. Flipped means my primitive brain reacted to my emotions and my upper brain, which is my thinking brain, got flipped. Now it is not involved. So whenever you see children are upset, it means the lower brain is not calm and composed and the higher brain is not able to think. So it's very important to understand that you must not have such practices in the classroom which make children upset, which make children not want to do something, make them nervous, make them anxious. Let's go to the next slide. I'll show you something that makes children very anxious. Look at this, what the teacher has written. The teacher says, dirty work. Now, I know that the child has not drawn or colored it as effectively as how you would have wanted it, but do you think you needed to write dirty work on the child's book and with red ink? Now think about it. When the child sees something like this is the child's brain right now in a thinking, but the minute the child saw this, the brain got flipped, which means now this brain, which is the primitive brain, is in high gear, and this child will have behavioral problems, will be back answering, will be frustrated. Very importantly, we have to avoid this. Let's go to the next slide. It has been proven world over that the red ink of pens that teachers use to correct children's work is extremely harmful for children. So these are some rules I wanted to share with you. We have some correction rules for teachers. We ask them to only use blue pen or green pen, and don't give too many smiling faces and all that, because that's extrinsic motivation. So it's very, very important to understand that. Let's go to the next slide. Now here is a teacher I like. If you see the next slide, Why do I like this teacher? If you see what the child has done, the teacher made a worksheet, said, this cat is hungry, help the cat reach the milk. Now, basically, the teacher wanted the child to use the maze, but the child was very intelligent and the child went outside the maze. But I like this teacher. The teacher did not blame the child for her mistake. And she's corrected it well, and she's given the child a star for good thinking. So it's very, very important for us as teachers not to be on our high horse all the time. We have made a mistake, accept it, don't punish the child for it. Let's go to the next slide. I'm now going to show you quickly a few worksheets which are designed by teachers and why they are wrong. Because literacy, when we talk about foundational literacy, it means you will be giving some kind of worksheets to children. And if you make mistakes in those worksheets, then you are going to hamper their foundation literacy. Now look at this worksheet. It says, so confusingly, it says circle the hot items and color the objects. So it's so confusing, this teacher. She says circle the hot items and color the objects. Why not color the hot items? So circle and color the hot items. She could have just kept it like that. Instead, she's confused. Now, if she wanted the children to color and circle the hot items, then this child has not circled the hot items. And yet the teacher has given 2 stars to this child. So, I mean, it's so much of confusion, so much of this thing that this teacher could have thought about. Let's go to the next one. This is a teacher who has written in all capital letters, first of all. You must avoid writing in all capital letters in a worksheet because children are learning to read. And then she's written, what's missing? And then I think she changed her mind. And then she wrote in small letters, draw missing objects. Now look at this teacher's own handwriting. How is she going to become a role model for these children in the class? And she's written, draw missing objects. Objects means whole objects. So it means the children have to imagine what could the teacher have forgotten. She should be writing, draw the missing parts. But instead of that, she's written objects. She has labeled everything in all capitals, which is completely against literacy rules. And please tell me, where in the world do you get rabbits who have buttons on their body? So you have to be very, very careful about the kind of pictures that you are creating for children, what kind of worksheets you are creating for them. Let's go to the next one quickly. This is another activity which is very bad for foundational literacy, where you give these double formation letters and numbers and you ask them to color. Has the chief guest come?
No, not exactly, ma'am. This was actually, please go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So here this activity is very wrong. Please don't use it in your schools, because when you give children to color a letter, you have to ask yourself, why am I giving this activity? I'm giving this activity so that the children will learn the formation of that letter or the formation of that number. By giving a coloring means child will do anywhere. It'll start from the top, go in the middle, go at the bottom. It's not teaching the child anything about formation. So it is very, very important. And look at another major mistake in this worksheet is of proportion. Look at the eye size and look at the size of the elephant. I mean, look at this. At an age when numeracy is being taught to children, your sizes and proportions are completely out of whack. So it's very, very important that you must be careful about the worksheets that you plan. Let's go to the next slide. Now I have a collection of worksheets which are printed by publishers, because you will say, okay, my teachers don't plan the worksheets. I buy books from publishers. Very important for you to understand that many of these publishers' books also have mistakes, like this one. On the left-hand side are words given with the first letter capital, which is wrong. Let's go to the next one. And if you see here, all the words start with the first letter capital, which is wrong. You cannot start these words with the first letter capital. And this is a series of book which I know is being used by many top schools, many top preschools use this particular publisher. And when I went through the books, I saw all the words in all the reading books were wrong. They were either starting with first letter capital or they were in all capitals. This is wrong, my friends. We have to be very careful when we are choosing material for our early years children. Let's go to the next one. Here is another mistake which is commonly made by schools. Heavy. When you're talking about heavy and light, it is not something that you can do through a worksheet. Heavy and light is an experiential activity. I need to experience its heaviness. I need to experience its lightness. Please don't give me a worksheet for a heavy and light. It's completely useless. Let's go to the next one. And that's my last one. And I hope I have been able to keep up to the time. There is a word called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance means when you know that what you are doing is wrong, but you continue to do it. For example, people who smoke, they know it is bad for their health, but they continue to do it. Similarly, there are many teachers, many schools, many educators who know that many of the things that I have talked about today are wrong for their school, are wrong for early years children, are wrong according to the NEP. But if you will still continue to do them just because you feel I'm not able to explain it to parents, then what you are practicing is called cognitive dissonance. So please don't practice cognitive dissonance as an educator. Thank you very much. The time was short. I've tried to cover as much as possible to give you an understanding of what foundational literacy and foundational numeracy must mean to all of you. Early Childhood Association is launching a book called National Education Policy from Policy into Practice. We are launching it on the 11th of February. It will be available very soon on Amazon. If you want to learn more about all that I've spoken about, you must pick up a copy of that book. And I would like to say thank you to the association, to this organization for inviting me. And thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed the session as much as I enjoyed doing it for you.
Ma'am, thank you so much, ma'am. It was such a fantastic session as expected. And there are so many comments on the chat saying such an excellent session, so many ideas. I think it was a wealth of information, and I have never taught in early childhood that space, but I think now I am also equipped to a great extent to go and try my.
Amazing.
It was, thank you so much. Thank you.
It was amazing, ma'am. Thank you so much. Maybe
Vijaya ma'am,
are you there?
Yes, I'm
Yes,
there.
yes.
In
Okay,
fact,
sir.
I also
Mukesh is
would
one
like
of
to.
our panel member. Jayashree ma'am and Mukesh ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Swati, I would love to.
Mukesh sir is, yeah. Mukesh sir
Yeah,
is one of our panelists for this session. So over to Mukesh sir for asking a question or making a comment.
Yeah, Swati, I must place on record our appreciation for a wonderful session. Hindi mein there is a saying, "Gagar mein sagar bharna." This is what you've done. There is a lot more that perhaps you can share, and we could perhaps look at a complete session with you on early childhood education. We look forward to the book on Amazon. I just want to add, I'm so happy you mentioned about handwriting being an art and not asking children to color the alphabets. Because this is exactly what Veda handwriting, which is kind of behind us, this entire organization does. It seriously believes that handwriting is an art, and the way they teach, the alphabets. In fact, what I would tell everybody in the session here is to look at this program, because just as we have alphabets and we teach spelling for words, this is a kind of a spelling for an alphabet. It's a very beautiful program. We've implemented this. I personally had, after a long gap, I had a little paralysis in my right hand some time ago. And due to that, my handwriting had gone, haywire. But having practiced this program, my handwriting, in spite of the fact that there is a little muscle atrophy in my right hand fingers, I am able to write well and legibly. So I would, request people to look at that. Now, my question to Swati is, Swati, NEP talks about differentiation between numeracy and mathematical thinking. I know that you had covered that through the Montessori 3D shapes, but I would love to have you dwell on this a little more as to how schools can make this difference between numeracy and mathematical thinking?
So it is very important to understand that when we talk about mathematical thinking, we are talking about the much more mature ways in which children will be using numbers and numeracy development. It's very important that in the foundational years, children first get an understanding not only of numbers, but the ways in which mathematics is going to be seen around them. So you cannot have a single day or a single activity in which there is no numeracy or math involved. And that is an understanding that we as teachers need to give them. Right from the time you brush your teeth, you tell the child that you're going to pick up one toothbrush. You are going to put a little bit of toothpaste, or you are going to cover half the toothbrush with the toothpaste. Open the tap slowly. So all these are actually immersion in numeracy. And that is why the NEP talks about foundational numeracy. So it is very, very important. What happens is we rush into mathematics straight away, mathematical thinking. We want children to suddenly become math masters. It's not going to happen till you don't give them these foundations in numeracy, in shapes, in sizes, in numerical words, words that express quantity, words that express size, etc. So it is very, very important that I would also urge teachers to read up on Piaget's cognitive development steps, because once you understand Piaget's sensorial development, you will be able to apply it both to numeracy and to literacy also.
Okay, thank you. The other question would be, as an early childhood expert, would you say that a particular method, either Froebel's method or the Montessori method, is what we should follow, or can we have an eclectic approach to the entire kindergarten or early childhood program?
I have never been a proponent of any one method because neither were Froebel or Montessori. They were Montessori actually learned from Froebel. She considered him her guru. And all these were contemporaries. If you see Steiner, if you see Vygotsky, Piaget, Montessori, Tagore, they were all contemporaries. And it is very important that when you stick to only one method, you may miss out on the plus points of another method. So you may turn a blind eye on something which is very good of another method also. And I don't think either Montessori or Froebel wanted you to be an early childhood educator like that. That's why I have coined a term called kiducation, which I use in my schools, which is education from the point of view of the child. So it's not education as teacher and parent want it. It's education from the point of view of the child. So we use Vygotsky, we use Maria Montessori, Froebel, Steiner, Gijubai Badeka, very importantly. I recently wrote a book on
yes.
Indian education is Gijubai Badeka. If you read his Divaswapna, and I've co-authored a book called Once Upon a Story, which is on the Divaswapna method. So it is very important to have a combination, always that works best.
Thank you so much. If there are no other questions, may I just proceed, Vijaya ma'am, with another question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I think there are one or two questions, Mukesh sir. Once there are one or two questions from the chat box. Maybe Bindu, can you just ask the question from the chat box, and Prema, one each?
Yeah, ma'am. Now, my question is, ma'am.
From the chat box, no? Bindu from the chat box.
Okay, okay. Parents are worried, ma'am, even in spite of all what the teachers are doing in the school. They are worried. Parents are often keen about academic excellence only than what all the teachers are doing inside the classroom, as you have said. So what's your thought about that? How can we change the mindset of the parents?
It's 20 years since I set up Podar Jumbo Kids. We started with 8 children. Today we have 45,000 children. I have not changed the curriculum. I have changed the parents' mindsets, because it is very, very important when we try to sell play-based education with them, we make the mistake of telling them that there will be no academics, whereas it is not like that. It is very important to explain to them there will be academics, but it will not be drill-based. There will be academics, but it will not be rote-based. So these are the methods that worked in the previous generations. Today's generation is the digital generation. They want reasoning. They want hands-on. And so we are going to be doing this, but our method of doing it is going to be Playway. And please use that example which I explained, that in that 6 years, it's the right brain which is developing, and the right brain learns faster and best through Playway. So it is very, very important that education of parents is lacking somewhere.
Yes.
And we have to blame ourselves for it.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Can I request Prema to ask the question from the chat box first? Prema? Are you there, Prema?
Yeah, ma'am, can I ask? Because there's one question here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes, please.
Yeah, Swati ma'am, thank you so much for a great session. Oh, we loved it. Yeah, so this is one question that comes here from Harsha Israni. She says, phonics, 3 years of children to learn, understand letters better. So what is your opinion about it? Because parents also seem to be greatly confused about learning through phonetics. So what is your opinion about it?
See, phonics should be started once you have completed the listening and the speaking. So it's LSRW, which means listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Phonics helps you in pronunciation, and phonics helps you in spellings. Don't make phonics the first step towards learning English language for a child. A child must first learn to listen to the whole language, learn to speak a few words through songs, through stories, get acclimated like that, to understand the language. Because whole language, when you talk about whole language, phonics is breaking down a language. So children learn a language in whole first. If I don't know the word ball, how will you break it down as b, l for me? So it is very important that before phonics, teach whole language. And I have always preferred the whole language method. But yes, I agree with you. Parents like phonics, but teach phonics at an age where children are able to break down and take one syllable at a time and identify it. Otherwise, it becomes very stressful for children.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, you kindly please announce this session also, ma'am, please. 6th, next Saturday session, coming Saturday session.
Yes, coming Saturday, we shall be actually hearing more about curriculum, the way NEP propounds it by Mr. Rajiv Kumar Garg, an exponent again in the field of education from Mumbai. So it shall be definitely lovely to have such an august gathering again the coming week, that is Saturday, the 6th of February.
Registration. Same registration. One registration is enough to attend. A single registration is enough.
Yeah. Do we have any more questions now?
One
There
more
are,
question, ma'am.
2-3 people of, yeah.
Mary
Please
Shanti Priya has asked a question.
Yeah. Would Shanti Priya would like to ask, or Bindu can read it out?
Yeah, what kind of courses are there to train the teachers who handle this group of kids and enhance the Playway method? So she wants to know about the training methods for the training courses for the teachers to equip them to handle all these children.
Sadly, one of the things in our country is, and sadly, which the NEP did not cover or solve, was a teacher training course for early years. Just like we have a B.Ed for primary and secondary, there should be one common course for early childhood pan-India, which is missing right now. So every state has its own kind of course, etc. But I would say any course that equips you with a 1-year training, which has maximum amount of internship, and more than a course, what equips you is reading. Early Childhood Association has an online enrichment program for early years teachers. If schools want, they can enroll their teachers for that. And we have come out with a book called Parikrama. Parikrama is 14 chapters of the 14 things, 14 topics that children must, the teachers must know about early childhood. So A, yes, have a lot of in-service training for your teachers, and B, have this habit of selecting books and making teachers read them and then have a discussion on the book. So for example, Maria Montessori's My Own Handbook, Montessori's Own Handbook is one of the best books. Frobel, you can read up. Diva Swapna of Gijubai is a very good book. Toto Chan is a very nice book. Tagore's Tota Kahini is another wonderful story for teachers to understand about teaching and about children.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
So informative. You have
If
given
you want-
wonderful
There is a
resources.
question.
If you want, I can send to Vijaya
Yeah, there is
ma'am.
a question.
Please send,
I
ma'am.
Yeah.
can send to Vijaya ma'am a PDF of my book, How to Teach So Kids Can Learn. And at the end of the book, I have given about 20 books that teachers must read. So I'll send you a PDF of this book. You can share it with all the participants.
That would be very
Okay.
kind of you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
So generous of you, ma'am, I should say. So there is a question, is the book from policy to practice, is it written by you, Swati ma'am? The question is from Megha Panispai.
Yes,
By
I
you.
have written
That
it.
is,
with,
that's what he wants to know.
Yes, I have written it with Dr. Rita Sonawat. So the format of the book is Dr. Sonawat has talked about all the points in the policy, and I have written about how to implement all those points in your classroom. So that is why it is called From Policy into Practice.
By when will this book be available, Swati?
From 11th February, it will be available on Amazon. I will send
brilliant.
Vijaya ma'am a link.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, there is
Okay,
another
Vijay
question.
ma'am, I'm
Yeah.
around, so I can
Yeah.
take the, can I take the question?
Yeah, yeah, please ask.
Yeah, Swati ma'am, absolutely fantastic,
Thank you.
awesome. My memory goes back to 8 years when we hosted the Kerala chapter for the early childhood education at,
Yes, yes.
and I am seeing you a very long time, and it's really beautiful to hear you.
Thank
Let me
you.
tell you, your experiences have come a long way. Although we are speaking from Dubai and we are representing the UAE, it's my honor to say that we had a fantastic session. One
Thank you.
question which is very pertinent and which everybody is speaking about: why is this 3 + 2 5 years coming in? And how do you think that rationale of adding grade 1 and 2, although we all know it is very good, and at least in our schools we have five years as the first phase. Careful it is now if grade 1 and 2 have phase become 1. What is your take on?
So basically this was done because of two reasons. Number one, as you know, government schools, there are Anganwadis, and then there is the government school starts from grade 1. So there was a lot of transitional problem because Anganwadis are not that focused on education. They are more focused on health and nutrition. So these children were not getting a foundation when they go to grade 1. And that's why if you see our ASAR reports, okay, the annual study of educational reports that come out by Pratham, they said that a third standard child can't even do what a senior KG child is doing, etc., etc. Because our children were not getting the foundational education. And that is why the importance of clubbing these two. Also, second reason is that our grade 1 suddenly becomes very formal. If you notice it in most of our private schools also, suddenly we feel the child is older now and we can start doing a lot of things with this child. And it is to bring down this stress, because the NEP, as you know, had a lot of researchers on its panel, and they have realized that early stress in these years can lead to a lot of learning problems later on. So that is why, to reduce the stress in the transitional years, they have clubbed the first 3 years of pre-primary and the first 2 years of primary, so that the kind of teaching style, the kind of way, activity-based, play way, can continue till age 8 or 7 in this case. And that's exactly what Steiner also says, that up to the age of 7, that's exactly what Finland has also done. Up to the age of 7, they don't have formal education. And that's why they are doing so well on the PISA scores.
Yeah,
Very
I think
Swati
Anurag
ma'am,
sir joined.
Swati ma'am, one more question from my side. This is
Just
Pramod
hold on,
Mahan.
sir. Just hold on. I think our secretary, our chief has joined. Anurag sir, can you hear, sir? I saw him.
He has joined. Actually, he's trying to join again. He's
Okay, I
joined.
saw him. Just now I saw him. Just admit him once again. I saw him. Just for a fraction of a second, he was there.
No, sir, not joined.
No, no, he was there, sir. He was there. Then something went wrong. 1 second, sir. Please hold on.
Please unmute किया हुआ है सर को आपने please mute करिए. Sir has joined.
Yeah, please unmute him, sir. He has joined.
Please unmute, sir.
Yeah. Again, Mr. CB, Mr. C. Just. Sir, sorry, 1 second, sir. You will rectify it because we couldn't identify because you are using Mr. Sir's name there.
Yeah.
You just CB Mishra sir, please.
Yeah. That's the confusion. 1 second. Just 1 second, sir. Mr. CB Mishra.
On behalf of CIR, basically, I welcome Anurag Tripathi sir, secretary.
Now it is fine, sir. Now it is fine. Sir, now you can do it. We have made you co-host. Anurag sir.
Anurag sir, are you there? You
Yeah,
can
now
now.
it is fine.
Thank you.
Great.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Very happy to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, actually, first of all, I want to introduce that today we have with us Mr. Anurag Tripathi sir. Actually, due to some technical problem, he has joined with my name. Anurag sir is there, and Secretary CBSE. Sir, I wish to inform you that today we have started the NEP program for the discussion 1 by 1 chapter daily, basically you can say, in detail. So today we are going. We had started the first session where we are discussing about the early childhood education foundation, literacy and numeracy. For that, we have very renowned personality with us, Dr. Swati Popat-Vats. She is the president of Podar Educational Network, and she has defined and explained each and every point, you can say, every corner of the child psychology, I can say. And I was listening every slide. And she has explained, you can say, every part of the numeracy. In that slides we are just playing you, that he has explained every corner, right and left mind, why first alphabet, small alphabet, bigger alphabets, what is numeracy, what is literacy, why the regional language. I want to say that regional language is basically where stop that slide on that area where all the regional languages required to start the education. That is also the important part. So today we had discussed all things, and mostly 1,000 people are there in the Zoom, and maximum parts are they are all participating in the Facebook. Sir, without wasting time, over to Anurag Tripathi sir for your kind and inauguration words, basically, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Mishra ji. Once again, good evening to all of you. आप सबको नमस्कार. और सबसे पहले मैं क्षमा चाहूंगा, सॉरी फील करूंगा क्योंकि ये सेमिनार आपका 4:30 पे मुझे ज्वाइन करना था, बट ड्यू टू सम टेक्निकल रीजन एज वेल एज CTET रिजल्ट प्रोसेसिंग मैं देर से ज्वाइन कर रहा हूं. उसके लिए आई एम सो सॉरी.
Yeah, and sir, our humble request, sir, you can do a virtual inauguration, sir. Please announce it. We will play the video.
Okay. Thank you. मैं आपके इस पूरे सेशन की और इस प्लानिंग को फॉर्मली इनागुरेट करने की रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं और अपनी अनुमति देता हूं. Thank you.
Done, sir. Done now.
Now the ribbon has cut down, sir. Thank you, sir. Now, sir, I want from your side कि आप थोड़े से दो शब्द मैं नहीं कहूँगा, कम से कम 10 मिनट का कम से कम आप हमारे को मार्गदर्शन करें, सर, प्लीज.
मिश्रा जी, सबसे पहले तो आप सबको कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशन एंड माय बेस्ट विशेस। नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी को चैप्टर वाइज टीचर्स तक ले जाने के लिए, प्रिंसिपल्स तक ले जाने के लिए आपका ये प्रयास निस्संदेह, नो डाउट, ये एक अच्छा प्रयास है। और आप जितना ज्यादा ये कार्य करेंगे उतना ही एजुकेशन पॉलिसी घर घर तक पहुंचेगी। देखिए बहुत अच्छा टॉपिक है, और आज आपका फर्स्ट टॉपिक है बेसिकली अर्ली चाइल्डहुड केयर, जो आपके नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी का स्टार्टिंग चैप्टर है। आई कैन से दैट इज द फर्स्ट चैप्टर। पॉलिसी बहुत क्लियर शब्दों में कहती है कि स्कूल का एम, एजुकेशन का एम एक अच्छे ह्यूमन बीइंग का क्रिएशन, एक अच्छे ह्यूमन बीइंग का निर्माण है, एक अच्छे सिटीजन का निर्माण है। और जब तक सीड्स आप अच्छे नहीं रोप करेंगे, जब तक आप नींव मजबूत नहीं करेंगे, जब तक आप बच्चों के बचपन को ग्रूम नहीं करेंगे, तब तक एक अच्छा सिटीजन बनना और बनाना जस्ट इम्पॉसिबल है। ये वैसे ही है कि जैसे आप अगर सीड्स को एटमॉस्फेयर देंगे तो एक अच्छे वृक्ष के रूप में आगे बढ़ेगा, लेकिन अगर सीड्स को अच्छा एटमॉस्फेयर नहीं देंगे तो फिर उसका कोई प्रोडक्टिव यूज सोसाइटी को नहीं मिलेगा। वैसे ही आपके छोटे से बच्चे होते हैं। एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आप प्रिंसिपल से, टीचर से, पेरेंट्स से एक्सपेक्ट करती है कि बच्चों का जो अर्ली चाइल्डहुड है, जो 1 साल, 2 साल, 3 साल या 6 साल तक का, उसको कैसे हम टच करें, वो बहुत जरूरी है। एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में ये कहा गया है कि एनसीईआरटी, एनसीएफ प्रिपेयर कर रही है। एनसीईआरटी, एनसीएफ 1 to 3 ईयर के बच्चों के लिए भी कर रही है और 3 to 7 ईयर के बच्चों के लिए भी कर रही है। 1 to 3 ईयर के बच्चे घर में रहेंगे, उनको किस तरह की न्यूट्रिशियस डाइट दी जाए, किस तरह से जॉयफुल एटमॉस्फेयर घर में रखा जाए, किस तरीके से बच्चे प्ले मेथड से, आर्ट के इंटीग्रेशन से, स्पोर्ट्स की मदद से कैसे उन बच्चों का फिजिकल, मेंटल और स्पिरिचुअल डेवलपमेंट किया जाए, ये आपके एनसीएफ में आने वाला है। 1 to 3 मतलब बच्चे 3 वर्ष तक माँ बाप के हाथ में रहेंगे, उनके परिवार में रहेंगे। वहां भी जरूरी है एजुकेशन, क्योंकि अच्छी पेरेंटिंग अगर होगी तो बच्चों की ग्रूमिंग और बच्चों का नेक्स्ट स्टेप जो स्कूलिंग है वो ज्यादा बेटर होगी। बच्चों से किस तरह से मोटिवेट करें, कैसे चार्ज करें, कैसे उनके न्यूरॉन्स को डेवलप करें, उनकी मसल पावर को किस तरह से मजबूत करें, न्यूट्रिशियस डाइट किस तरह से लें, जो सेंसेज है, 5 सेंसेज है, उनको किस तरीके से एनलाइटन करें, एक्सपीरियंस करने के लिए बच्चों को हम किस तरीके से एक अच्छा एटमॉस्फेयर दें, ये अर्ली चाइल्डहुड केयर में आता है। एंड फाइनली जब बच्चा 3 ईयर to 7 ईयर आपके स्कूल में आता है तो हम सबको मालूम है कि ऑलमोस्ट 85% ब्रेन इसी एज में डेवलप हो जाता है। और अगर ये हमें पता है कि नर्सरी से लेकर के 6-7 ईयर तक के बच्चे का ब्रेन ऑलमोस्ट 85% डेवलप हो जाता है, तो हमें ये मालूम होना चाहिए कि उसके आइडियाज फिक्स हो जाते हैं। आइडियाज किन चीजों को लेकर फिक्स हो जाते हैं? जियो लाइफ को लेकर के, वर्चूज को लेकर के, स्किल्स को लेकर के, एथिक्स को लेकर के, वैल्यूज को लेकर, इवन कल्चर्स को लेकर, संस्कारों को लेकर 7-8 ईयर्स तक के बच्चे के आइडियाज फिक्स्ड हो जाते हैं, फ्रीज हो जाते हैं। और अगर इस समय उसके ब्रेन में ये चीजें फ्रीज हो गई, डेवलप हो गई, मैच्योर रूप ले ली, तो बाद में उस बच्चे को बदलना, इंप्रूव करना जस्ट इम्पॉसिबल होता है। इसलिए एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आप टीचर और प्रिंसिपल से एक्सपेक्ट करती है कि पेरेंटिंग और अर्ली चाइल्डहुड केयर बहुत सेंसिटिव तरीके से करने की जरूरत है। और इस प्रोसेस में आपको एक लंबा प्लान देती है। लंबा प्लान क्या देती है? आप अपनी पेडागोजी एक्सपीरियंशियल रखें, आप अपनी पेडागोजी आर्ट इंटीग्रेटेड रखें, आप अपनी पेडागोजी को जो है आप इंडस्ट्री से, अपनी पेडागोजी को आप बच्चों के प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ से कनेक्ट करके रखें। तो आपको पेडागोजी की बात इसलिए मुझे करनी पड़ रही क्योंकि देखिए आप सब टीचर्स और प्रिंसिपल्स हैं और आप अपने टीचर्स को ट्रेंड करते हैं। अर्ली चाइल्डहुड केयर में अगर एक अच्छा टीचर अफेक्शनेट नहीं होगा, अच्छे नेचर का नहीं होगा, लविंग नहीं होगा, एक अच्छा साइकोलॉजिस्ट नहीं होगा, एक अच्छा साइकेट्रिस्ट नहीं होगा, तो बच्चों के बिहेवियर को समझेगा नहीं। तो बहुत जरूरी है बच्चों की स्ट्रेंथ को समझना, उनको गाइड करना और ग्रूम करना। देखिए कुछ बच्चे जो हैं हो सकता है कि आपके रफ बिहेवियर के बावजूद लर्न कर लें, लेकिन मेजॉरिटी ऐसी होती है जब बच्चों को अगर आप डिस्करेज करते हैं, पनिश करते हैं, उनको आप कोई ना कोई काम करने से रोकते हैं, रेस्ट्रिक्टिव बिहेवियर करते हैं, तो मेजॉरिटी ऐसे बच्चों की होती है कि जिनकी ग्रूमिंग या जिनका डेवलपमेंट किल हो जाता है। तो अर्ली चाइल्डहुड केयर 1 to 7 या क्लास 3 या क्लास 1 से लेकर के क्लास 3 तक जो इम्पोर्टेंट एज है वो अर्ली चाइल्डहुड केयर में आपको देखने की बात की जा रही है। उसमें इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है टीचर्स ट्रेनिंग, कि आप अपने टीचर्स को कैसे ट्रेन करें। इंपॉर्टेंट है करिकुलम, कि इन छोटे बच्चों का करिकुलम किस तरह का हो, रोट लर्निंग वाला ना हो, नॉलेज देने वाला नहीं हो, इन बच्चों के ऊपर ओवर बर्डन नहीं हो, और करिकुलम इस तरह का हो कि जिसमें उनकी क्यूरियोसिटी बढ़े, जिसमें क्वेश्चनिंग पावर बढ़े, जिसमें सोचने और समझने के लिए उनकी क्षमता बढ़े, जिसमें वो चीजों को अनुभव करें, टच करें, फील करें, सुने, समझें और आगे बढ़े। तो ये एक ऐसी पेडागोजी है जिसको आपको अपने टीचर्स को ट्रेंड करना है। और मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा कि ज्यादातर टीचर्स इसके लिए तैयार नहीं होते। हमारे आपके स्कूलों के टीचर भी जब क्लासरूम में जाते हैं तो उनको लगता है कि क्लास 1 और क्लास 2 के बच्चों को भी वही फिजिक्स, केमिस्ट्री, मैथ सिखानी है। तो एजुकेशन पॉलिसी अब दूसरा वर्जन आपको देती है कि इस एज में न्यूमरेसी एंड लिटरेसी को लेकर के आना है। न्यूमरेसी और लिटरेसी का बहुत सिंपल सा मतलब है कि बच्चों को अंकों का ज्ञान आना चाहिए, अंकों को जोड़ना घटाना आना चाहिए, लिखना आना चाहिए, और लिटरेसी मीन्स लिखना, पढ़ना और बोलना सीखना चाहिए। ये चीज एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आपके सामने लेकर के आती है। और आप लोग अभी रिपोर्ट पर डिस्कस कर रहे थे और मैंने सुना कि कोई मैडम बेसिकली पीसा की रिपोर्ट का भी डिस्कशन कर रही थी। पीसा की रिपोर्ट कहती है, एसर की रिपोर्ट करती है, आपके देश का सर्वे कहता है इन चीजों को लेकर के, इंडस्ट्रीज रिपोर्ट ये कहती हैं कि क्लास 3 के बच्चे बहुत बार क्लास 7 में जाके लर्न करते हैं। क्लास 1 में जो सीखना चाहिए वो क्लास 3 में जाके सीखते हैं। क्या चीजें? साइंस की चीजें या नेचुरल साइंस की चीजें या लैंग्वेज की चीजें या मैथ की। तो अगर क्लास 1 में बच्चे को प्लस माइनस सीखना है और क्लास 3 में सीखता है, क्लास 3 में बच्चों को सेंटेंस फॉर्मेशन सीखना और क्लास 7 में सीखता है, तो ये बच्चों के लिए बहुत जबरदस्त नुकसान होगा और पूरा का पूरा लर्निंग गैप होता जाएगा। वो लर्निंग गैप इतना ज्यादा होगा कि बाद में कभी फिलअप नहीं हो सकता। और इसका पूरा का पूरा दारोमदार टीचर पे आता है, क्योंकि टीचर्स को अपने बच्चों के अकॉर्डिंग अपने करिकुलम को शिफ्ट करना चाहिए। टीचर को अपने बच्चों की नीड के अकॉर्डिंग, बच्चों की कैपेसिटी के अकॉर्डिंग, बच्चों की बिहेवियर और स्किल के अकॉर्डिंग अपनी पेडागोजी चेंज करनी चाहिए। हालांकि टीचर की मजबूरी होती है, टीचर 40 बच्चों को 40 तरीके से नहीं पढ़ा सकती है, 40 बच्चों को पढ़ाने के लिए 40 टाइप की पेडागोजी नहीं अपना सकती है। लेकिन मेरा यह मानना है कि टीचर को अपने पढ़ाने का, अपनी टीचिंग लर्निंग प्रोसेस जो है इस तरह से रखनी चाहिए कि हर बच्चे को उसका पढ़ाया हुआ लेसन समझ में आ जाए, एक्सपीरियंस हो जाए, अपने लाइफ से बच्चा रिलेट कर ले और उसके लिए कोई ना कोई जॉयफुल एटमॉस्फेयर दे दे जिससे आउटकम बेटर निकल के आए। तो पहली चीज एजुकेशन पॉलिसी, अर्ली चाइल्डहुड केयर, फाउंडेशनल लिटरेसी, न्यूमरेसी लिटरेसी को लेकर के इंपॉर्टेंट बातें आपको कहती है। दूसरी चीज न्यूमरेसी लिटरेसी को लेकर के आपके पास स्टेप बाय स्टेप बढ़ने की चीजें बताती, रिपोर्ट्स आपसे डिस्कस करती। ये दोनों चीजें अर्ली चाइल्डहुड केयर, न्यूमरेसी लिटरेसी, ये चीजें अचीव कर रहे होंगे, ये इसके लिए एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आगे लेकर के बढ़ती है। और देन टीचर्स ट्रेनिंग की बात करती है, करिकुलम की बात करती है, पेडागोजी की बात करती है, इवन असेसमेंट की बात करती है। क्लास 1 और 2 और 3 का बच्चा अगर पेन पेपर पर आप असेस करना शुरू कर देंगे तो पूरी ग्रूमिंग रोट लर्निंग पर शिफ्ट हो जाएगी। पेरेंट्स भी वही करेंगे और बच्चा भी वही करेगा। लेकिन अगर बच्चों का असेसमेंट आप जो है डिफरेंट करेंगे पूरा, तो बच्चे के पेरेंट्स पर और बच्चों पर प्रेशर नहीं पड़ेगा। तो ये एजुकेशन पॉलिसी असेसमेंट की भी बात करती है कि जो छोटे बच्चे हैं, स्पेशली जो छोटे बच्चे हैं, क्लास 1, 2, 3 के बच्चे हैं, नर्सरी, केजी, अपर केजी के जो बच्चे हैं, जो छोटे बच्चे, उनका असेसमेंट रोट लर्निंग बेस्ड पेन पेपर को अवॉइड करते हुए 360 डिग्री रिव्यू करें। और वो रिव्यू क्या हो सकता है? उस बच्चे की स्पीकिंग पावर, उस बच्चे की लिसनिंग पावर, उस बच्चे का टीम इंटरेक्शन, उस बच्चे का स्पोर्टिव एक्टिविटीज, उसकी हेल्थ, उसकी वेलनेस, वो सारी चीजें असेसमेंट में काउंट होती हैं। मैं आपको जिक्र करूं कि आज से लगभग 6 साल पहले जब CCE आया हुआ था, जब बेसिकली आपके सामने कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव एंड कंटिन्यूअस इवैल्यूएशन प्रोसेस थी, उनमें इन सारी चीजों को देखा जाता था। हालांकि तमाम सारे कारणों से सिस्टम फेल हुआ और आउट हो गया, लेकिन एक अच्छा प्रयास था कि बच्चों को होलिस्टिक असेसमेंट आप कैसे करें। तो एजुकेशन पॉलिसी एज ए पॉलिसी आपको सारे उपाय बताती है, लेकिन इम्प्लीमेंटेशन करने की जिम्मेदारी आप प्रिंसिपल्स और टीचर्स की है। तो एक अच्छा स्टेप है जो आप डिस्कस कर रहे हैं। प्लीज ये डिस्कशन पेरेंट्स तक लेकर के जाइए और टीचर्स तक। आज तक मैंने जितने सेमिनार अटेंड किए हैं 99% वो प्रिंसिपल्स के होते हैं। आप तो वैसे पेडागोजिकल लीडर हैं, आप वैसे लर्नड हैं, आप वैसे कैपेसिटी और कैपेबल हैं। ये सेमिनार टीचर के साथ करिए। मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा अपने 100% टीचर्स के साथ और 100% पेरेंट्स के साथ आप सेमिनार करें एजुकेशन पॉलिसी पर, अर्ली चाइल्डहुड केयर पर, बेसिकली एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग पर लेकर के किस तरह से कैसे चीजें ली जाए, इनका सेमिनार आप अपने टीचर और पेरेंट्स से करिए। तो मेरा निवेदन है कि आप जो सेमिनार प्रिंसिपल के साथ कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं, इसकी सक्सेस होगी कि हर प्रिंसिपल जो पार्टिसिपेट कर रहा है इस सेमिनार में, वो अर्ली चाइल्डहुड केयर को लेकर के, न्यूमरेसी और लिटरेसी को लेकर के, फाउंडेशनल कोर्स को लेकर, एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग पर लेकर, बच्चों के साइकोलॉजिकल डेवलपमेंट को लेकर के टीचर और पेरेंट्स को पार्टिसिपेट कराए। आपका हर टीचर पेडागोजी में ट्रेंड हो, इसके लिए आपको प्रयास करना है। आप अपने टीचर्स को ट्रेंड कराइए छोटे बच्चों को पढ़ाने की पेडागोजी में। आप अपने टीचर्स को ट्रेंड करिए साइकोलॉजिस्ट और काउंसलर के साथ, कि आपका ईच एंड एवरी टीचर काउंसलर की भूमिका में हो, साइकोलॉजिस्ट की भूमिका में हो। एक अच्छे तरीके से बच्चों को ट्रीट कैसे किया जाए, ग्रूम कैसे किया जाए, ये कला होती है, आर्ट होती है। जैसे एक डॉक्टर होता है, डॉक्टर ट्रेंड होता है। बिना ट्रेनिंग के डॉक्टर ऑपरेशन नहीं कर सकता, बिना ट्रेनिंग के डॉक्टर आपको मेडिसिन नहीं दे सकता। आपकी भूमिका उस डॉक्टर से ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है, आपका कंट्रीब्यूशन उस डॉक्टर से ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण है। आप अगर बिना ट्रेनिंग के, बिना लर्निंग के, बिना पेडागोजी के अपने उस बच्चे को दवाएं देंगे, मैं एक सिंपल एग्जांपल दे रहा हूं, आप जो बच्चों को एवरीडे दे रहे हैं वो किसी मेडिसिन से कम नहीं है। एवरीडे 6 to 7 आवर्स बच्चे आपके पास हैं। अगर बिना ट्रेनिंग के, बिना कैपेसिटी के, बिना इंटरनेशनल लेवल पर बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस को जाने हुए आप क्लासरूम में जाएंगे, आपके टीचर क्लासरूम में जाएंगे, तो रोट लर्निंग होगी, मार्क्स बच्चों को मिलेंगे, लेकिन बच्चों की जो स्किल है वो डेवलप नहीं होगी। इस फोरम पर मैं फिर ये चर्चा करूंगा कि जो एजुकेशन पॉलिसी है वो आपसे निवेदन कर रही है, रिक्वेस्ट कर रही है कि प्लीज मार्क्स इंपॉर्टेंट हैं, लेकिन अगर वो मार्क्स बिना स्किल के आ रहे हैं तो आपकी एजुकेशन किसी काम की नहीं है। आपका बच्चा 100 में 100 लेके आ रहा है, रोट लर्निंग करके आ रहा है, सेलेक्ट हो रहा है, लेकिन स्किल्ड नहीं है। स्किल्ड क्या? कम्युनिकेशन स्किल, लिसनिंग, राइटिंग, स्पीकिंग पावर नहीं है। आपका बच्चा सोसाइटी में अगर बोल नहीं पाता है, एक पेज का एस्से नहीं लिख पाता है, पेशेंस के साथ सुन नहीं पाता है आपको और आपके पेरेंट्स टीचर को, तो आप बहुत बड़ा वैक्यूम क्रिएट कर रहे हैं। सिमिलरली आपका बच्चा अगर क्रिएटिव नहीं है, इनोवेटिव नहीं है, नई नई चीजों सोचता नहीं है, क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछता, क्यूरियोसिटी नहीं है, बहुत बड़ा नुकसान कर रहे हैं। आपका बच्चा अगर कोलैबोरेटिव नहीं है, टीम में पार्टिसिपेट नहीं करता है, आपका बच्चा अगर क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग नहीं है उसमें, तो फिर आपके 100 में 100 का कोई मतलब नहीं है। सिमिलरली ऐसे ही आपकी लाइफ स्किल्स आती हैं। तो प्लीज आप सबको मालूम है, आप सारे प्रिंसिपल्स को मालूम है कि अल्टीमेटली एजुकेशन का एम बच्चों में लाइफ स्किल्स डेवलप करना है, लर्निंग स्किल डेवलप करना है, लिटरेसी स्किल डेवलप करना है, लेकिन ये क्लासरूम के प्रेजेंट पैटर्न में नहीं हो सकता। वर्तमान तरीका 40 मिनट में सब्जेक्ट को कंप्लीट करना और पेन पेपर टेस्ट लेकर के 100 में 100 देकर निकाल देना, ये स्किलिंग भी नहीं करेगा, कॉम्पिटेंसी भी डेवलप नहीं करेगा। तो अर्ली चाइल्डहुड केयर में आपको ध्यान रखना है कि आपके पढ़ाने का पूरा तरीका, पूरी पेडागोजी, पूरी बच्चों की ट्रेनिंग, मेडिकेशन, जो मैं बार बार करूं, बच्चों का मेडिकेशन है ये बच्चों को आप स्टार्टिंग से ध्यान दे रहे हैं। ये ऐसे होना चाहिए कि जिससे बच्चों की ग्रूमिंग, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग को लेकर हो, कॉम्पिटेंसी को लेकर हो, स्किल्स को लेकर हो। आप अपने बच्चे का उदाहरण अपने सामने रखिए, उत्तर आपको मिल जाएगा। आप अपने बच्चे को इमेजिन करिए कि आपका बच्चा क्या मंच पर खड़े होकर के 1000 लोगों को संबोधित कर सकता है। आपके अपने बेटे में क्या पब्लिक स्पीकिंग है। आपका बच्चा जब कोई प्रॉब्लम्स आती है उसका कोई सल्यूशन दे पाता है। आपका बच्चा 10 लोगों की टीम को लीड करते हुए रिजल्ट दे पाता है। आपका अपना बच्चा क्या सोसाइटी को लेकर के कंसर्न है, सेंसिटिव है, आपको लेकर के सेंसिटिव है। उत्तर आपको मिल जाएगा। यही डेवलपमेंट आपको अपने स्कूल के बच्चों में करना है। इमेजिन करिए अगर घर में कर पा रहे हैं तो स्कूल में भी आप करेंगे। इतनी बातों के साथ मैं एक बार फिर मिश्रा जी को, पोदार स्कूल के प्रिंसिपल को, आप सारे प्रिंसिपल, पार्टिसिपेंट और टीचर्स को थैंक्स बोलूंगा। लेकिन मैं ये जरूर कहूंगा कि देखिए हम लोग पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं, टीचर्स हैं, प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, हम लोग रिजिड हो जाते हैं, हमारी अपनी ईगो होती है, हमें मान लेते हैं कि जो हम हैं वही सत्य है और हम सबसे नॉलेजेबल हैं, हम सबसे ज्ञानी हैं, हम ही देश के सबसे अच्छे प्रिंसिपल हैं, हम ही देश के सबसे अच्छे ऑफिसर हैं, हमसे बेटर कोई नहीं है। ये सोच हमें बहुत नुकसान करती है। हमको एवरी डे नई नई चीजें सीखनी है। एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आपके सामने है, उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए आपको 1000 उपाय करने पड़ेंगे। पुराना तरीका काम नहीं करेगा, पुराना ढर्रा काम नहीं करेगा। अगर आप करेंगे तो स्कूल भी बदलेगा और देश भी बदलेगा। उसकी जरूरत इसलिए है क्योंकि देश में अभी भी 40% आबादी बिलो पॉवर्टी लाइन है। अगर आपने बच्चों की स्किलिंग कर दी, कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड लर्निंग दे दी, तो ये पॉवर्टी देश से खत्म होगी, अनएम्प्लॉयबिलिटी देश से खत्म होगी। आपके देश में अभी भी मेजॉरिटी में तमाम सारी ऐसी प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, एविल्स हैं, करप्शन है, या आपके यहाँ कितने सारे तरह के क्राइम हैं। ये तभी खत्म होगा जब अर्ली चाइल्डहुड केयर आप कर सकेंगे। और एक अंतिम रिक्वेस्ट, हर शहर और हर गली में ऐसे सैकड़ों बच्चे, हजारों बच्चे रहते हैं जिनकी रीच स्कूल तक नहीं होती। जो बच्चे गलियों में, सड़कों पर, रेड लाइट के किनारे, ब्रिज के नीचे पड़े रहते हैं, ऐसे हजारों, लाखों की संख्या में। और आप में से बहुत सारे प्रिंसिपल के पास ऐसे स्कूल हैं जो इन बच्चों के लिए क्लासेस चलाते हैं, आफ्टरनून क्लासेस चलाते हैं, वीकेंड की क्लासेस चलाते हैं। मुझे आपसे रिक्वेस्ट कर रही हैं, आपका पूरा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर 2 बजे बंद हो जाता है, सुबह से लेकर 2 बजे तक इंटायर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर लॉक हो जाता है। प्लीज कोई उपाय करिए। ऐसे थाउजेंड्स बच्चे सेकंड मीटिंग आपके स्कूल में 2 घंटे के लिए ज्वाइन करें, स्पोर्ट्स में भी पार्टिसिपेट करें, थोड़ी सी उनकी नॉलेज भी बढ़े, लर्निंग भी हो, और कोई न कोई स्किल सिखा दें जिससे अपनी एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी लेकर के आगे बढ़ जाएं। ये मेरा आपसे निवेदन है और मैं उम्मीद करूंगा कि आप इसे करके दिखाएंगे। एक बार फिर आप सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू।
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Anurag Tripathi, sir. That is for your valuable words. मैं कहूँगा गागर में सागर वास्तव में आपने दिया, और बहुत ही busy schedule में you had given the time for inauguration of this program. Actually, today the two things are going on simultaneously. Today, 10th and 12th class date sheet has been announced. At the same time, when we are attending this webinar, parallelly the CBSE has announced the date sheet. One thing, and second part, the CTET result is going to be finalized. For that, sir is totally busy. Some meetings are going on. On behalf of CIR, I first of all thank you, Anurag Tripathi sir, and also Secretary CBSE, and also I thankful to Swati Pawat ma'am. I had listened your name so many times, but this is the first time when I had listened you in detail. Definitely, we will share and we will make something more program only for the primary school teachers. Right now, the principal, as sir has said, this program is basically done by the principal. So many principals are saying, and some things, small things you had raised regarding the books and all these things. That is very much, I'm also measuring that thing. I am also calculating all this part basically. That was the important part. Thank you, Swati madam. And I'm very much thankful for Vijay Katta ma'am. Vijay ma'am is actually the person who has taken so much of initiative for starting this NEP. And I can say,
मिश्रा सर, मैं आपसे परमिशन लूंगा क्योंकि एक दूसरी मीटिंग ज्वाइन करनी है।
सर
आपसे परमिशन लूंगा।
स्वाति मैडम से, सर मैं स्वाति मैडम से 2 मिनट कहूंगा कि 2 मिनट, क्योंकि आज उन्होंने सेशन लिया, और विजय मैडम से कहूंगा 2 शब्द त्रिपाठी सर के लिए, फिर हम बंद करेंगे। स्वाति मैडम फर्स्ट।
त्रिपाठी सर, थैंक यू सो मच। आपने जो आज बोला है अर्ली चाइल्डहुड एजुकेशन के बारे में, वी आर सो प्राउड कि हमारे जो CBSE के इंचार्ज है वो अर्ली चाइल्डहुड को इतना महत्व देते हैं। It's going to be an inspiration for all of us to ensure that whatever you have said today is going to be implemented, and we are all going to do our best to ensure that parents and teachers are educated about its importance. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Vijay madam.
Hello.
Thank you, sir. It was so inspiring to listen to you. And I wanted to share that you will be very happy to know in Jamshedpur in Jharkhand, we have got 5 schools where in the afternoons we are educating around 6,000 children absolutely free, of course, from the underprivileged community. So I'm so happy to share this with you. There are at least 8 schools, other than our Kerala public schools, which are doing this job. Definitely, we will, remember your words, and we will try to live up to your expectations, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And on behalf of CIR, I want to again thank you, Anurag Tripathi, sir, Swati Bhavat, ma'am, Dr. Swati, ma'am, and Vijaya Katta, ma'am. Also, I'm thankful to Mr. Mukesh Shalat, sir, Joyshri Venkaran, sir, and all CIR Board of Directors, Dr. Sarjan, sir, Bindu, madam, and Deepa, madam, all the member, all the principals, Pramod Mahajan, sir. I'm not able to see all the principals. If I'm not taking the name, I'm very sorry for
You
that.
can say all the zonal directors and board of
All the
directors.
zonal directors and directors of the CIR. I'm very much thankful for and all the principal who had participated. I request you all for later on also all the programs will be very much good for the good and initiative for that. And I also want to say one thing, just like Madam has said regarding the numeracy and literacy, we are supposed to improve the handwriting and all these things. For that purpose, CIR also started the taking of initiative of handwriting improvement through Veda handwriting app. I request all the principal, if you are interested, to kindly log in that way, and there is a login link is there. Again, I am very much thankful for not taking so much of time. I know you are sitting in the office and taking care of Anurag Tripathi, sir. I am very much thankful for you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Raji. Thanks a lot. Mukesh Shalat ji का चेहरा नहीं दिख रहा. Mukesh ji भी हैं?
Mukesh sir, are you there? Mukesh sir was there. He was asking
He
questions.
was there. There's a lot of.
Sajan sir, please. Sajan sir, Mahajan sir is also there.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Deepa ma'am is there.
Thank you.
All over India and world, basically Tripathi sir ये इसमें India से और abroad से सभी जगह से हम लोग यहाँ जुड़े हुए हैं.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, मिश्रा जी.
जी सर.
देखिए, मैं यही कहूंगा कि आप में से हर कोई ना कोई यूनिक कार्य कर रहा है और आप कोई ना कोई बेस्ट कार्य अपने स्कूलों में कर रहे हैं. जब आप मिल करके एक दूसरे के साथ आगे बढ़ेंगे और इंटायर एफर्ट आप एजुकेशन पॉलिसी को लेके चलेंगे तो तस्वीर बदलेगी. इन्हीं शुभकामनाओं के साथ एक बार फिर आप सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. थैंक यू. थैंक्स अ लॉट.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
That we got that was
Thank you.
That helped us. That lead us. Thank you.